Hello everyone, my name's Kitetsu and welcome back to my channel, at long last, because I've been away for a while. You guys are getting used to this by now, but anyway, I am so excited to be giving you this video. I have a MEGA-GARGANT right in front of me, and to the left here, I also have the Sons of Behemat Battletome. So, right, the first thing I'm going to do in this video is talk through the model and why I absolutely love it, and then I'm going to be talking through the Battletome itself. So first of all, thanks to Games Workshop for hooking me up with one of these models and the book so that I could talk to you properly about these things. Obviously, when it comes to reviewing a model and a range like this, being able to actually build one, have it ready for you guys, and really be able to comment on the quality of the model and how easy it was to build. And obviously, I've only just started painting it, so he's not really ready to look his finest. But at least it gives me a really good sort of starting point to be able to, you know, at least claim I know what I'm talking about here. So the first thing I have to say is that this model is absolutely enormous. So enormous, in fact, that it's kind of a struggle to fit it into my current camera setup. But I mean, I have this little guy on hand, and yeah, look at the size difference. He is absolutely monstrous. Nowhere near as big as Archaon, which is something I'm going to talk about later, because there is a bit of a kind of caveat with this model, and that is of course the price. It's very expensive, but I mean, this thing looks incredible. The detail is astonishing. The scale of it is incredible. I'm actually going to go out there and say that right now, this is my favorite model that Games Workshop have ever released for Age of Sigmar. Okay, period. This is my favorite one. And that's no small thing, me saying that, because you guys know, if you've been following my channel, that I'm all over Age of Sigmar. I absolutely love it. I loved Warhammer Fantasy. I also love 40k. But for Age of Sigmar right now, I seriously love this model. And I think that the camera doesn't really do it justice. You kind of have to see it in real life to appreciate the level of detail and just how well designed this thing is. There are, of course, 3 different variants you can build, and I kind of went for the more vanilla one. But yeah, in terms of building it and assembling it, it was an absolute dream to assemble. It was so easy to put together. I would say the only tricky bits, maybe if you're looking to build one of these yourself, is his kind of belt that goes around his waist has to be stuck on in little sections. And as long as you start with the piece right in the center at the back and work your way round, you won't really have any problems there. And the other bit that was a little bit tricky to assemble were sticking on these bits of netting on his belly that hold on the kind of front piece of his armor. I found a really simple and elegant solution to stick that on without getting really messy glue absolutely everywhere. And basically what I did is I got a cocktail stick, put some plasticine on the end, and stuck it to the front so that I could find the contact points, put a little bit of glue on, and then kind of press it into place without getting glue everywhere and ruining the detail. But I was actually surprised at how well everything slotted together, how intuitive it was to put things in place, and I would say that very few people would have any difficulties assembling this model. So yeah, I love the model. I think he looks absolutely fantastic. This is easily one of my all-time favorites, and I guess the look and the feel of everything ties into how well the Battletome is written, and I'm going to be talking my way through that. So give me a few seconds and I will readjust my camera to look through the Battletome. Okay guys, right, we're back with the Battletome all set up in front of me. So now, in terms of this Battletome, again, I'm a massive fan, and it tends to be the case that when they focus more on the lore, the background, the storylines, if they give me enough reason to care about a faction, then for me personally, I'm going to like that an awful lot more. So I kind of like the fact that the army list is smaller, and this feels more like one of the original first edition Battletomes, where there's tons of backstory and maybe a little bit lighter on the rules. Don't get me wrong, there's plenty of rules in here for your chosen models, but because the range itself is so small, it gives so much room in here to focus on compensating with the storyline being extra amazing. Now, in terms of Battletomes, this is the most fun I have had reading a Battletome since the gloomspite gitz one, and again, you guys probably know that that is a phenomenal battle tome. So well written, so much detail, so much good backstory, that again, to say that this is my second favourite battle tome, I think in the whole of Age of Sigmar, has really refreshed my excitement for Age of Sigmar. I don't know about you guys, but I kind of went in and out of excitement for the Lumineth. I was really excited, then I kind of wasn't, and then I was like, I kind of am. You get the idea, but with these guys, I truly am super excited about them. Right, so I'm not going to go through every single page, but you've got a really nice backstory. This piece of art in particular, hopefully it's showing up nicely on my camera. I absolutely love it. It's so cool. You get such a good sense of scale of how enormous and how terrifying it must be if these Gargants suddenly sprung out of nowhere. You're seeing the kind of typical settlements of the mortal realms where the civilians live, kind of grounding this into a setting that I can relate to. And yeah, you've got these hulking beasts turning up. And the Stormcast Eternals, bless them, look like they're about to be absolutely annihilated. I mean, look at these guys. What do they think they're going to do against these things that are that size? So, yeah, super cool artwork. Now, we've got an amazing backstory. One thing that I liked about this was the way it tied into some of the old kind of books of Age of Sigmar. Some of you guys may remember this book here, and kind of this new battle tome summarizes the awakening of Behemat, and in fact why he was asleep in the first place, how he tragically ends up being killed thanks to Archaon and Nurgle's infestation. It's a bit of a sad tale for Behemat. It doesn't end very well, but there's this really exciting kind of promise that things are potentially looking up for them. They're on the rise, and yeah, they're probably going to have another world titan kind of god beast sized being at some point in the near future. The next thing I absolutely love is we finally have our first map of Ghur, or at least our first large one. There are a few smaller maps in the God Beast book, but at the moment they are working seriously hard on bringing the mortal realms to life, and I don't think there are very many realms so far left now that we don't have a decent map for. One thing I was a little bit disappointed for with this map is the fact that when Behemat ends up being killed, his body ends up forming an enormous feature of the landscape, and they say that his ribcage is used as a meeting hall, and I thought it was a bit disappointing that they didn't show this region of Ghur in the map. I think that would have been pretty cool, but hey ho. So yeah, then we go through the idea of them being mercenaries. It talks about each different type of MEGA-GARGANT, so the Warstompers, the Gatebreakers, the Kraken. You get the usual incredible picture gallery from the heavy metal team. Right, so painting tutorials, again, something that I always think Age of Sigmar is doing absolutely amazing on. They give you such good tutorials for doing the skin, and we've got, look at this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different tutorials just for trying different skin shades. I'm going for the one on the left here, so a grey sear undercoat, and then using a kind of diluted girly man flesh shade to start to bring out those colours. And yeah, this is absolutely great. Different ways of painting the cloth, the bone, the toenails, you name it, it is in there, and it's all good stuff. Oh yeah, special mention to the fact that you can actually replace the flail with the corpse of a cow to make a cow flail. That was a nice little touch. But then we get on to the rules themselves. Now, obviously, there are only 3 of the MEGA-GARGANTs, and then there are the kind of normal man-crusher Gargants, and therefore, there's not going to be a whole ton of stuff in this book. A lot of their allegiance abilities are focused around making the man-crusher Gargants more powerful, which is kind of cool. They're inspiring them to either run faster, have rerolls on their hits, or rerolls of 1 at least. But the way this is broken down is you have your allegiance abilities for the faction overall, and then on each double page you have like the Taker tribes, which means you're being led by the Kraken, the Stomper tribes, which obviously I built the Stomper, so this is going to apply to my army. And then finally you have a double page spread for the Breaker tribes. So depending on which Mega-Gargant is your general will depend on which page you're looking at here. As I said, the battle traits mostly are focused around improving the Man-Crusher Gargants. I focused my time mostly looking at the Stomper tribe, seeing as that's what I built. But in terms of looking at their command traits and artifacts of power, there are some really good ones here, and I was kind of surprised they only have 35 wounds, which considering their damage output, they're not ridiculously overpowered, and I can imagine that they could be brought down relatively easy. So in my first games, I'm going to give my general a wound characteristic of 40 instead of 35, and then I'm going to consider giving him this artifact of power that allows him to re-roll save rolls, which seems pretty mad. 40 wounds re-rolling saves, and bearing in mind that he has, I think, a 4+ save, which is equivalent to heavy armor in Age of Sigmar. So no battalions as you'd expect. We've got some cool background tables to come up with names and backstories. Next we get onto the rules for mercenaries. Now this is something kind of unique and cool about the Mega-Gargants, is you can take one as a mercenary in any faction in Age of Sigmar. There are some restrictions to that and some kind of rules of what you can and can't take. I must admit, seeing a Mega-Gargant in a Stormcast Eternal army would seem a little bit strange to me, but they kind of make it work. I mean, we can take a Kraken-eater and that's allowed in an order or a destruction army. The Warstomper can only be taken in destruction or chaos, and finally the gatebreaker can only be taken in death or destruction. So destruction can take any of these as a mercenary, but the other Grand Alliances have to pick a specific type. Quite like the fact, I guess, that I built the most evil looking one, and he's going to be a perfect ally in my chaos army. But yeah, then we get into the Warscrolls. All of these are available obviously on their website, so there's not really any point in me going through these particularly. I thought it was kind of interesting that all three of the Mega-Gargants essentially are exactly the same. They all have a almighty stomp or jump up and down, which is basically the same thing with double the amount of attacks. They all have a death grip attack, and then the kind of main weapon is the thing that distinguishes them. Now, for the Mega-Gargant I've gone for, his Titanic Boulder Club basically is the perfect answer to hordes, because you're fairly guaranteed to be doing around 10 attacks each time with that. You basically do one attack for any model within 3 inches, and then you add the modifier from the table. So a standard unit is going to be, say, 5 models. Add the modifier from the table, so you're adding 4, which means you're going to be attacking for 9. Now, they did add a little clause in there that you can't go over 10, and I think that's a bit of a shame. I think they would have added some hilarious new kind of gameplay possibilities by just allowing that attack value to go as high as possible. Let's face it, if you had Skaven rats swarming around him, I just think it would be hilarious to see him wipe out literally, I don't know, 20 of them in one go. But I was initially thinking, you know, these things are not ridiculously overpowered. I guess we'll have to wait and see how they play on the tabletop. I mean, on the charge, they are doing D6 mortal wounds, which is fairly insane. Then you've got, I don't know, 15 attacks, one of which does D6 damage, one does D3. The club itself does 2. Pretty decent rend. I guess we'll have to see. I mean, they're 500 points. Potential damage output is massive, but then I guess you have to balance that off against if you had 500 points of infantry units or elite infantry, which one is actually going to achieve more in the end. I nearly went for a Mega-Gargant, but then the Fort Crusher Flail hitting on a 4 was a bit of a deal breaker. Even if he's doing 10 attacks, if you're hitting on a 4, you're essentially missing half of those immediately. But, you know, the 3 damage and the -3 rend did nearly tempt me for a moment. But, you know, in the end, I went for rule of cool and just went for whichever one looked the coolest. And then finally, you've got the profile points at the end. Now, they come in at just under 500 points. And then they count as a leader option, and the Man Crusher Gargants, I believe, are your battle line, and there I think they were 180 points, and you could take 3 of them for around 500 points. Yeah, so if you want a 1000 point army, I guess you're basically looking at 1 Mega Gargant and 3 of the Man Crusher Gargants. That's going to set you back a nice tidy amount of money. I'm thinking at the moment I would be more tempted to buy one of these if I was you guys and use them as a mercenary in your existing army. And there are some absolutely fantastic lore descriptions of how these mercenaries tend to head towards combat and sell their services to the highest bidder, whoever's going to offer them the most meat or whatever it might be. Only for the mercenary to turn on the allies right at the end and wipe out both armies. It's fantasy gold, you know, it's really good stuff. But right, closing thoughts then. The lore is well written, the models are fantastically detailed, you know, they look incredible. The rules are good fun, there's loads of stuff to get stuck into. The fact you can take them as mercenaries in other armies is great fun. Are there any downsides? Well, I guess the first one is the fact that if you are trying to build 1,000 points or 2,000 points, you're never going to be able to get exactly onto the 1,000 or the 2,000 or whatever it is, because there is very little in the way of customization. You can't choose any equipment options, obviously. The 3 different Mega Gargants come as they are. I think the one that I'm building is 10 points cheaper than the other 2, but you know, there's not really much in it. Obviously, there's the price to consider. It's a difficult one to balance. The very first thing I did when I bought this book was turn straight to the points and think, wow, these things are huge. They're £120 per model. There seems to be a general rule in Warhammer that the more expensive a model is, the more powerful it is. But in this case, I was kind of surprised to see they were 500 points, and I think someone like Archaon would absolutely shred through one of these. So yeah, they are very expensive. That's probably my biggest downside to the faction at the moment, and of course, in the long run, I guess maybe the lack of variety. But if you compared this to, say, the Imperial Knights, then having 3 sort of big knights and then your little Helvrins or whatever, this kind of follows the same idea. You've got 3 Mega Gargants, you've got the Man Crusher Gargants. I don't really see that being much of an issue. I guess time will tell how quickly I get bored of them. The other thing I guess I would say is that when you have factions like this with very elite models, so therefore a tiny overall model count, it's incredibly fun to play that faction. It's not always that fun to play against them. I remember when I was playing Knights against my friend, my turn would take me 30 seconds and then I'd have to sit there for maybe 15 minutes whilst he was moving all of his units around. And you will probably find people tailoring their lists specifically to beat you. That can be a little bit frustrating. But then on the flip side, you know, I kind of liked my knights for the fact that if I wanted to go around my friend's house and have a game, I only had to carry 4 models with me, even if, you know, they were quite big. So yeah, I mean, I want to hear what you guys think about this faction. I absolutely love it. I think I'm going to put this in 2nd place as my 2nd favourite army in Age of Sigmar. 1st place, gloomspite gitz. 2nd, Sons of Behemat. And 3rd place would probably go to my Nighthaunt. But I mean, I could do a whole 2nd video on talking about the price of these models, why I think they are as expensive as they are, whether I think they are too much, you know, comparing them to other models in the range. So let me know if that's something you'd be interested in. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching. And yeah, don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you are new. And otherwise, I will see you guys really soon in the next video.